You walked into the kitchen this morning and stood there. Just stood there. The reason you got up from the chair. The thing you needed. The word that was on the tip of your tongue 3 seconds ago. Gone. Vanished like smoke. You turned around, sat back down, and tried to laugh it off. But you didn't laugh. Not really. Because this has been happening more often. Names slip away mid-sentence. You read a page of a book and realize at the bottom that you absorbed nothing. You find yourself pausing in conversations, searching for a word you have used 10,000 times, and the silence stretches just long enough for your daughter to notice. She doesn't say anything, but you see it in her eyes. Here's what no one has told you. There is a silent disease that can develop in your brain without a single obvious symptom for years, sometimes decades. It does not announce itself with dramatic episodes. It does not show up on routine blood work. It does not even show up on a standard neurological exam until the damage has already spread. And a major 2026 study has now confirmed that this condition quadruples the risk of severe cognitive decline after the age of 65. Quadruples it. Not doubles, not increases slightly. 4 times the risk. The most disturbing part is this. Millions of people over 60 are walking around with this condition right now and have absolutely no idea. Their doctors have not flagged it. Their lab results look acceptable. They have been told that what they are experiencing is just part of getting older. It is not. What is happening inside their brain is not aging. It is accumulating damage driven by a process that can be identified, interrupted, and, in many cases, slowed dramatically if you know where to look. That is exactly what I am going to show you in this video. Not how to manage symptoms after the damage is done. How to stop the damage while there is still time to protect what matters most. Your memory, your clarity, your independence. I'm Dr. Neuro, and I've spent decades helping people with memory problems, brain fog, nerve pain, and something many are told they must just live with. One of the most frustrating things I see in my practice, and I see it almost every week, is how often people are told the wrong story about why their brain is failing. They are told it is age. They are told it is genetics. They are told it is inevitable. And all they can do is slow it down a little. In many cases, none of that is true. What is actually happening is a specific, identifiable, biological process that was never investigated, never tested for, and never explained. And that is what we are going to change today. Before we go any further, I want to hear from you. Drop a comment below with your age and where you are watching from. I read these comments personally, and they help me understand who this community is. Have you noticed more forgetting lately? More moments where a word just disappears? Have you ever been told by a doctor that your brain is fine when you know something feels different? Tell me about it below. And if you are new here, hit that subscribe button because I share strategies like this every week to help you stay sharp, strong, and independent after 60. Let me tell you about Margaret. Margaret was 71 years old, a retired school librarian from Ohio. Sharp woman. Organized. The kind of person who could recite the Dewey Decimal System from memory for 40 years. She came to see me because over the previous 18 months, she had started losing track of conversations. Not big things, small things. She would be talking to her sister on the phone and forget what they had been discussing 2 minutes earlier. She would write grocery lists and then leave them on the counter. She started avoiding her book club because she could not remember the chapters she had read the night before. Her primary care doctor ran some basic tests. Blood pressure was fine. Cholesterol was managed. Blood sugar was, and I quote, borderline, but nothing to worry about. He told her this was normal cognitive aging. He told her to do crossword puzzles. When Margaret came to me, I ordered a different set of tests. What I found was not normal aging. What I found was a silent, smoldering process that had been damaging her brain for years without anyone noticing. And the most shocking part was that the thing driving the damage was something Margaret consumed every single day. Something she believed was healthy, something her own doctor had never once questioned. What we changed for Margaret was not dramatic. It was not expensive, but it stopped the progression in its tracks. I will tell you exactly what it was. First, you need to understand what is actually at stake inside your skull. Your brain contains roughly 86 billion neurons. These are living cells, not wires, not circuits. Living, breathing, metabolically active cells that require constant fuel, constant protection, and a very specific chemical environment to function. Each neuron communicates with thousands of others through connections called synapses. The speed and accuracy of those connections depend on a fatty protective coating called myelin. Think of it as the insulation around an electrical cable. When myelin is intact, signals travel fast and clean. When myelin is damaged, signals slow down, misfire, or stop entirely. That is when you forget a name. That is when a word vanishes. That is when you walk into a room and cannot remember why. Deep inside your brain sits a structure called the hippocampus. This is the memory center. It is one of the very few areas in the adult brain where new neurons can still be born, a process called neurogenesis. But the hippocampus is also extraordinarily vulnerable. It is one of the first structures to shrink when the brain is under chronic attack. And here is what the 2026 study revealed. The disease that quadruples cognitive decline, risk after 65, is not Alzheimer's itself. It is not a genetic mutation. It is something far more common, far more widespread, and far more treatable. It is cerebral small vessel disease. Now, before you think this sounds exotic or rare, let me explain what it actually is. Cerebral small vessel disease is damage to the tiny blood vessels deep inside your brain. These are not the large arteries you hear about in stroke prevention. These are microscopic vessels, thinner than a human hair, that deliver oxygen and nutrients to the most critical regions of your brain, including the hippocampus, including the white matter where myelin lives, including the areas responsible for processing speed, word retrieval, and short-term memory. When these tiny vessels are damaged, they leak, they stiffen, they narrow, blood flow to critical brain tissue drops, and what happens next is a slow, silent cascade of destruction. Reduced blood flow means reduced oxygen. Reduced oxygen triggers inflammation. Inflammation generates oxidative stress, which is essentially a storm of unstable molecules that tear apart cell membranes and damage DNA. That oxidative stress attacks myelin. It suppresses BDNF, which stands for brain-derived neurotrophic factor, a protein your brain desperately needs to maintain existing neurons and grow new ones. As BDNF drops, neurogenesis slows. The hippocampus begins to shrink. Memory formation weakens, and this entire process can unfold over 10 to 20 years before the first noticeable symptom ever appears. Here's another question that changes everything. What damages those tiny blood vessels in the first place? This is where most people are stunned. It is not something dramatic. It is not industrial chemicals or rare genetic defects. The single most common driver of cerebral small vessel disease is chronic, low-grade blood sugar elevation. Not full diabetes. Not even a formal diagnosis. I am talking about blood sugar levels that sit in what doctors call the borderline range. Fasting glucose between 100 and 125, or an HbA1c between 5.7 and 6.4. Your doctor looks at those numbers and says, "You are fine. You are not fine." Those numbers mean glucose is silently glycating the walls of your smallest blood vessels, stiffening them, inflaming them, and slowly starving your brain of oxygen. Now, I want to pause here because this is where many people say, but I eat healthy, I am careful. Most of my patients believe that too. That is the problem. The damage is not obvious. It hides inside habits and foods that sound healthy on the surface. Let me show you where it hides. The first source is liquid sugar. Fruit juices, smoothies, sweetened coffee drinks. A single glass of orange juice spikes your blood sugar faster than a candy bar. The fiber has been stripped away, and the fructose hits your liver and your bloodstream like a freight train. Your brain's tiny vessels take the hit every single time. The second source is refined carbohydrates eaten alone, a piece of toast for breakfast, a bowl of cereal, crackers as a snack. When you eat carbohydrates without protein or fat to slow absorption, your blood sugar spikes rapidly, your insulin surges, and over time, those repeated spikes damage the endothelial lining of your smallest blood vessels. The third source is constant snacking. Every time you eat, insulin rises. If you eat every 2 to 3 hours, which many people over 65 are told to do, your insulin never fully drops back to baseline. Chronically elevated insulin is inflammatory. It accelerates small vessel damage. It promotes the exact cascade I just described. The fourth source is one that will surprise you, and it leads to a critical part of this conversation. Medications. Specific classes of medications that millions of people over 60 take every single day can quietly accelerate brain damage by depleting the very nutrients your brain needs to repair itself. Proton pump inhibitors, the acid reflux medications like omeprazole, dramatically reduce absorption of vitamin B12 and magnesium, both essential for nerve function and myelin repair. Metformin, the most commonly prescribed diabetes medication, depletes B12 over time, and most doctors never test for it. Statins, used for cholesterol, can reduce CoQ10 levels, a molecule your mitochondria need to produce energy in every brain cell. Anticholinergic medications, found in common sleep aids, allergy pills, and bladder medications, directly interfere with acetylcholine, one of the most important neurotransmitters for memory. Let me tell you about Robert. Robert was 68, a retired electrician from Pennsylvania. He came to me with what he described as a fog that would not lift. He could not concentrate. He was forgetting appointments. His wife said he had become a different person over the past 2 years. His doctor had tested him for early Alzheimer's. The tests were inconclusive. No one had looked at his medication list. Robert had been on omeprazole for 7 years for acid reflux. He had been on diphenhydramine every night for sleep. He was also on a statin. When I tested his B12, it was critically low. His magnesium was at the bottom of the normal range. His CoQ10 had never been tested. We worked with his prescribing physician to find alternatives. We did not stop anything without supervision. We supplemented what was depleted. Within 4 months, the fog began to lift. His wife noticed it before he did. Robert did not fully recover, but the progression stopped. And that made the difference between a man who could still live independently and a man who could not. If you are finding this helpful so far, go ahead and hit that like button. It really supports the channel and helps us reach more people who desperately need this information. So here is the most important question. If chronic blood sugar toxicity and nutrient depletion are silently destroying the tiny vessels in your brain, what protects them? What stops the cascade? What can you do starting tomorrow morning? The truth is far simpler than most people expect, and that is exactly why it is so often overlooked. Here is the key rule, and it is something almost nobody has ever told you. Never eat carbohydrates alone. Every single time you consume carbohydrates, pair them with protein, healthy fat, or both. This one change slows glucose absorption, flattens the blood sugar spike, reduces the insulin surge, and protects those tiny vessels in your brain from the repeated damage that drives cerebral small vessel disease. A piece of toast with avocado and an egg instead of toast with jam. An apple with a handful of almonds instead of an apple by itself. Oatmeal with walnuts and a scoop of protein instead of oatmeal with honey. One of my patients, a 69-year-old woman named Dorothy, made this single change and saw her fasting glucose drop from 114 to 92 in 6 weeks. Her morning brain fog, the fog she'd accepted as permanent, began clearing within the first month. Let me tell you Dorothy's full story. She was 72 when she came to me, a retired nurse from Virginia who had been told by 2 different doctors that her increasing forgetfulness and her difficulty finding words were simply age-related cognitive decline. She had a family history. Her mother had lost her memory in her late 70s. Dorothy was terrified she was following the same path. She had already started writing notes to herself everywhere. Sticky notes on the refrigerator, reminders on her phone, lists in every pocket. She told me she felt like she was holding her life together with tape. We tested her blood sugar patterns using a continuous glucose monitor for 2 weeks. Her numbers shocked her. She was spiking to 160, 170. After meals she considered healthy. Oatmeal with banana, whole wheat bread with jam, rice with vegetables. Her HbA1c was 5.9, borderline. Her doctor had said it was nothing to worry about. We implemented the protocol I am about to share with you. Dorothy did not become a different person overnight. But over 4 months, her word retrieval improved. Her morning clarity returned. She stopped needing the sticky notes for daily tasks. She told me something I will never forget. She said, "I feel like I got my mind back. Not all of it, but enough to trust myself again." She did not fully recover her memory, but she regained confidence. That is life-changing. Here is the 5-step protocol. The first step is stabilizing your blood sugar. This is the root cause for the majority of silent cerebral small vessel damage. Ask your doctor for an HbA1c test and a fasting insulin test, not just fasting glucose. If your HbA1c is above 5.6 or your fasting insulin is above 8, your brain is already under low-grade attack. The goal is to keep blood sugar stable throughout the day. No dramatic spikes, no crashes. The second step is eliminating the daily exposures that drive those spikes. Remove liquid sugar completely. No fruit juice, no sweetened beverages, no smoothies unless they contain protein and fat. Stop eating carbohydrates alone. Stop snacking between meals unless the snack is protein-based. These changes alone reduce the glucose assault on your brain's blood vessels by as much as 40%. The third step is nutrient protection. Your brain requires specific nutrients to repair myelin, produce BDNF, and maintain the integrity of those tiny blood vessels. Vitamin B12 is essential for myelin synthesis. If you are over 65, your absorption declines naturally, and if you are on acid blockers or metformin, it may be critically low. Methylcobalamin is the preferred form. Magnesium glycinate supports hundreds of enzymatic reactions in your brain, including those that regulate inflammation. Omega-3 DHA is the primary structural fat in your brain cell membranes. Most people over 60 are profoundly deficient. Alpha-lipoic acid is one of the few antioxidants that crosses the blood-brain barrier and directly neutralizes oxidative stress in brain tissue. But hear me clearly. More is not better. Vitamin B6 in high doses causes the very nerve damage it is supposed to prevent. Certain forms of iron can increase oxidative stress. Get tested. Work with your doctor. Targeted supplementation guided by lab results is medicine. Random supplementation is gambling. The fourth step is reducing chronic inflammation. The inflammatory cascade that damages your brain's small vessels is fueled by specific foods: seed oils, soybean oil, corn oil, canola oil, sunflower oil. These are in virtually every processed food, and they promote the NF-κB inflammatory pathway, which is one of the primary drivers of blood vessel damage in the brain. Replace them with extra virgin olive oil, which actively suppresses that same pathway. Add fatty fish twice a week for omega-3s. Add berries daily for their polyphenol content, which has been shown to support blood vessel flexibility. Add leafy green vegetables for their nitrate content, which supports blood flow to the brain. Remove ultra-processed foods. If it comes in a package with more than 5 ingredients, approach it with caution. The fifth step is gentle daily movement. Walk for 10 minutes after your largest meal of the day. This single habit has been shown to reduce post-meal blood sugar spikes by up to 30%. You do not need intense exercise. You do not need a gym membership. You need consistent, gentle movement that signals your muscles to pull glucose from the bloodstream before it can damage your vessels. Consistency matters far more than intensity. 10 minutes every day after your biggest meal. Now let me be honest with you, because honesty matters more than hope built on sand. Brain cells and blood vessels heal slowly. Myelin repair takes months. Neurogenesis in the hippocampus is a gradual process. Some damage, if it has been accumulating for years, may not fully reverse. I will not promise you miracles, because miracles are not real in medicine. But stopping progression is just as powerful as reversing damage. Less forgetting. Fewer episodes of fog, steadier focus, better sleep, more confidence in conversation. Those changes matter. They preserve the thing that matters most. And what matters most is not a lab number. It is your independence. It is recognizing your grandchildren's faces and remembering their names. It is walking to the mailbox without fear of falling. It is sitting at the dinner table and following the conversation without pretending. It is trusting your own mind. Forgotten names lead to embarrassment, which leads to withdrawal, which leads to isolation. Unsteady balance leads to falls. Falls lead to hospitalization. Hospitalization leads to a loss of autonomy that is extraordinarily difficult to recover from. Once cognitive decline crosses a certain threshold, the window for meaningful intervention narrows dramatically. That is why this moment matters. The changes you are noticing now are not verdicts. They are warnings. And warnings, by definition, still leave room for action. Here is your action plan for the next 2 to 4 weeks. First, remove all liquid sugar from your daily routine. No juice, no sweetened drinks, no sugar in your coffee. Second, pair every carbohydrate you eat with protein or healthy fat. No exceptions. Third, walk for 10 minutes after your largest meal every single day. Fourth, ask your doctor to test your HbA1c, fasting insulin, vitamin B12, magnesium, and vitamin D levels at your next appointment. Fifth, review your medication list with your physician and ask specifically whether any of your medications deplete B12, magnesium, or CoQ10, and never change or stop any medication on your own. Sixth, observe your symptoms weekly, not daily, because daily observation creates anxiety, and weekly observation reveals real trends. Give this protocol 4 weeks. Many of my patients notice meaningful improvements in clarity, energy, and focus within that window. There is a wide space between miracle cures, which are never real, and the equally damaging message that nothing can be done. Real progress lives in that middle space. It lives in the decision to stop the damage today rather than wait for a crisis tomorrow. Your brain is not a machine that simply wears out. It is a living organ with remarkable capacity for protection and repair. Even now, even after years of silent damage, progenitor cells still exist in your hippocampus. B, D, and F can still be upregulated. Myelin can still be rebuilt. Mitochondria can still recover. The biology of regeneration does not stop at 65, but it does require the right conditions, the right fuel, and the removal of the things that have been quietly destroying it. I want to hear from you. Drop a comment below with your age, where you are watching from, and whether you have experienced any of the symptoms we discussed today. The word-finding difficulty, the morning fog, the moments of blankness that feel like more than just distraction. Share this video with someone you love who needs this information, a spouse, a sibling, a friend, because so many people are suffering in silence after being told nothing can be done. That is not true. And hit the like button and subscribe for more strategies designed specifically to help you protect your brain, your memory, and your independence for years to come. Remember, protecting your brain starts with understanding what is damaging it and removing it from your daily life. You have more control than you think. I'm Dr. Neuro. Stay strong, stay sharp, and I'll see you in the next one.